I think one of the most frustrating things about Mythic Plus is that improving sounds way simpler than it actually is. People always say the same stuff. Just play more. Learn the dungeons. Do more keys. Watch better players. Fix your mistakes. And yeah, obviously all of that matters. But I don't think people talk enough about how hard it actually is to improve in Mythic, plus once you get past a really basic level. Because once you're not brand new anymore, it stops being about obvious things. It stops being just learn the route, interrupt more, don't stand in stuff. Now it becomes all these smaller, harder to fix problems that are way more annoying. And honestly, I think that's why a lot of players feel stuck for so long. Not because they don't care, not because they're lazy, not because they never try, but because Mythic Plus is one of those game modes where you can feel like you're trying to improve and still not really know why you're not moving the way you want. And I feel that too. I'm not saying this as someone who has the whole thing solved. I'm saying it as someone who likes Mythic Plus, likes trying to push higher, and has realized that getting better at this game is way less straightforward than people make it sound. One of the biggest reasons it's hard to improve is that a lot of mistakes in Mythic Plus don't feel obvious when they happen. That's probably the biggest one. You can wipe in a key and think you know why it went wrong. Maybe somebody died. Maybe a pull went bad. Maybe the healer got overwhelmed. Maybe the tank sent it too hard. But a lot of the real problems start way before the actual disaster. Bad positioning, weak awareness, late reactions, panic movement, using something at the wrong time, not noticing danger early enough, playing slightly too greedy. That kind of stuff doesn't always feel dramatic in the moment. And that's what makes it hard. Because if the mistake feels obvious, it's easier to fix. If the mistake is small and spread across the whole run, it's way harder to even notice. And I think that's where a lot of players get stuck. Not because they aren't making progress at all, but because the things holding them back are subtle enough that they keep repeating without getting fully corrected. Another reason it's hard to improve is because Mythic Plus is not a solo game. That matters a lot. If you were playing something where every result came only from your own play, improvement would still be hard, but at least it would feel cleaner. In Mythic Plus, your experience is constantly mixed with other people. Sometimes the tank is great. Sometimes the tank is griefing the route. Sometimes the healer is stable. Sometimes the whole group panics after one death. Sometimes the key feels clean. Sometimes the run is chaos before the first boss. So now you have this weird situation where some runs teach you something real, and some runs are just a mess. And it's hard to know what to take from that. Because if a run goes badly, what was actually your mistake? What was the group's mistake? What was just bad timing? What was avoidable? What was not? That gets confusing fast. And if you don't understand what was actually yours to improve, then it's really easy to come out of runs with no clear lesson at all. That's a huge part of why improvement feels slow. I also think Mythic Plus makes improvement hard because pressure changes the way people play. This is a massive one. It's easy to think you're improving when the run is clean, when things are under control, when polls are stable, when the timer looks okay. When nothing is really going wrong, a lot of players look better than they actually are under pressure. Then the key gets uglier. The timer gets tighter. A pull goes weird. Somebody dies. Now everything feels a little off, and suddenly your level drops. That happens to a lot of people. Me too. And the annoying thing is, that kind of weakness doesn't always show up in every run. It only shows up when the run becomes stressful. So now you've got another layer of improvement that's hard to train. Not just mechanics, not just routes, not just knowledge. Now you're trying to improve your ability to stay calm, stay clear-headed, and stay clean when the run starts falling apart. That's really hard, because panic doesn't feel like a stat, but it matters like one. Another thing that makes Mythic Plus improvement so hard is that players often confuse activity with progress. And I think this is way more common than people want to admit. Doing more keys is not the same as improving. You can spam keys for hours and still carry the same bad habits through every run. You can play every day and still make the same mistakes. You can feel active and still not be fixing the thing that's actually holding you back. That's the trap. And I think a lot of Mythic Plus players fall into it because the mode itself is so repeatable. You log in, do another key, maybe another one, maybe one more after that. And it feels like you must be getting better because you're putting in the time. But if you're not actually identify what keeps going wrong, then time alone doesn't fix much. It just gives you more reps of the same version of yourself. That's a pretty uncomfortable thing to admit, but I think it's true. And honestly, I think that's one of the hardest parts, because it means improvement takes more than effort. It takes awareness. And awareness is way harder than just queuing again. Another thing that makes Mythic Plus hard to improve at is that the game doesn't always give you clean feedback. Sometimes you know exactly what happened. Other times, the run just feels bad, and you don't fully know why. Maybe the damage was okay. Maybe people only died a few times. Maybe the timer was close. Maybe mechanically, it didn't even look that awful, but the keys still felt unstable. The problem with that is, improvement works best when feedback is clear, and Mythic Plus is often not that clear. A run can fail for 5 overlapping reasons. A run can succeed while still hiding weak play. A run can be timed even though a lot of things were messy. A run can fail even if you played better than usual. That makes it really hard to measure progress in a clean way. And if you can't measure progress well, it becomes easier to feel lost. That's why so many players keep asking themselves, am I actually getting better? Why do I still feel stuck? Why does this still feel so hard? Why do I still make the same mistakes? That feeling is very real in Mythic Plus. I also think ego gets in the way of improvement more than people realize. Not always in the obvious toxic way either. Sometimes ego is just not wanting to admit what's still weak. Not wanting to say, yeah, my positioning is still bad sometimes. Yeah, I panic more than I thought. Yeah, I'm too greedy. Yeah, I lose focus when the run gets messy. Yeah, I blame the group too fast. That stuff matters. Because if you can't be honest about the weak parts of your play, it becomes really hard to improve them. And I think Mythic Plus is brutal about that. It keeps exposing the things you'd rather not look at. That's why the mode can feel so addictive and so frustrating at the same time, because it shows you the truth. And sometimes the truth is that the thing holding you back isn't some huge dramatic issue. It's a bunch of medium-sized weaknesses that keep showing up under pressure. That's not a fun answer, but I think it's often the real one. And I think one more reason it feels so hard to improve is because progress in Mythic Plus is usually slower than people want. People want to feel a big jump, a big breakthrough, a big clean moment where suddenly they're on another level. Sometimes that happens. Most of the time, it doesn't. Most of the time, progress is ugly. It's slower reactions becoming slightly faster. It's one panic mistake happening a little less often. It's noticing danger half a second earlier. It's learning when not to force something. It's staying calmer after one bad pull. That kind of progress is real, but it's not dramatic. And because it's not dramatic, people often don't give themselves credit for it. They only notice the runs where they still get exposed. They don't always notice the small things that actually got better, that can make improvement feel invisible even when it's happening. And that's hard mentally, because if the process feels slow and messy, it becomes easy to doubt whether you're moving at all. So yeah, I think that's why it's so hard to actually improve in Mythic Plus, because the mistakes are often subtle, because the game is full of mixed feedback, because groups make it harder to isolate your own problems, because pressure changes everything, because playing more is not always the same as improving, because ego gets in the way, and because real progress is usually slower and uglier than people want it to be. I'm still in that process too. I'm still learning, still getting exposed, still trying to figure out what I actually need to clean up if I want to push higher and feel more consistent. And honestly, I think that's part of why Mythic Plus is so hard to quit. Because even when it's frustrating, it still feels like there's another layer to improve, another weakness to clean up, another habit to fix, another level to reach. That's what makes it brutal. But I also think that's what makes it good. Because when improvement finally does show up, even in small ways, it feels earned. So no, I don't think Mythic Plus is hard to improve at because players are dumb or lazy or not trying hard enough. I think it's hard because the mode itself is messy, fast, social, punishing, and brutally honest. And if you've ever felt stuck in Mythic Plus, honestly, you're probably not crazy. It really is hard. If you want, Tell me what part of Mythic Plus improvement feels hardest for you right now. Is it panic? Positioning? Awareness? Decision-making? Trying to learn in pugs? Because I'm pretty sure a lot of players feel way more stuck than they let themselves admit.